My Lords, the BBC's value as a beacon of excellence has always rested on the impartiality of its news output. But internationally and certainly domestically, that claim of impartiality is under strain. Ofcom tells us that audiences constantly rate the BBC less favourably than other channels for impartiality, and complaints have trebled over 4 years. And even the BBC itself has now initiated new impartiality training, worried its staff don't understand it, which is worrying. Indeed, the BBC's head of news, Fran Unsworth, recently had to explain to one staff team that they would have to hear and see ideas and people that they didn't personally like. That such journalism 101 lessons were needed should concern us all. So I want to make some remarks here as a critical friend, much as the Noble Lord Vasey commented. As a contributor, particularly to Radio 4, as a listener for decades, who as an educator regularly introduced teenagers to the archive of the Noble Lord Bragg's In Our Time archive, which is why I'm rather nervous speaking in front of him, against, by the way, when I introduced those programmes, against advice from other people at the BBC who told me they were a bit too highbrow to have those discussions with teenagers amongst academics. They'd alienate urban youth, that kind of soft bigotry of low expectations that assumes only Stormzy and RuPaul's Drag Race will capture young hearts and minds. But at the risk of being slightly at odds with Lord Bragg here, I think criticising the BBC is actually a duty. I appreciate that any criticism of the BBC in 2021 can easily be dismissed as variously a Daily Mail plot, a Rupert Murdoch-driven attempt at stirring up the culture wars, a Tory coup against the licence fee, and the noble friend agrees with me. How brilliant. But if the BBC is to be of value in the UK, we, its supporters, need to stop being defensive and accept that all grievances are not whipped up by devious political ideologues, but arrive from perfectly legitimate concerns from the public about impartiality. Traditionally, a way of judging impartiality was the pride with which impartial broadcasters could boast that no one would know how they voted. Their opinions were kept under wraps. But today, the sense of compromised impartiality is the perception of groupthink at the BBC, not from party politics, but the embrace of values assumed to be uncontestable, but actually politically partisan and ideologically contentious, such as the BBC's internalisation of identity politics. Recently, the BBC's Director of Creative Diversity, earning a cool $250,000 a year, introduced an allyship scheme, training scheme, and stated on the BBC website, "Build back better to ensure diversity and inclusion baked into the new normal once the COVID crisis has passed." Baked in, the new normal. Imagine then trying to be a staff member in that BBC department who wanted to challenge the BBC's decision to spend £100 million on a drive for diversity and inclusion in response to the Black Lives Matter protest. Such an approach actually does not include but excludes those who disagree, and diversity is never diversity of opinion. Try also being a gender-critical feminist working at the BBC, and there are many, but they know to keep stum. OK, I even know people who work at the BBC who voted to leave the European Union, but they couldn't come out, and they remain secret Brexiteers to this day. That's how groupthink works. Not everyone agrees, but everyone knows the narrative you're expected to follow. The embrace of such orthodoxies is rarely spotted as a threat to the impartiality of BBC output, but it is a new and very present danger. Why did no one at the BBC notice the danger to editorial independence when the corporation signed up to a partisan lobbying NGO such as Stonewall, so well documented and revealed eventually despite pressure to drop it, by the Stephen Nolan podcast series, an example of BBC investigative journalism at its finest? Yet even now, BBC senior management have announced it's working with another external organisation, Involve, on trans-inclusive policies. The Mayor Forstater, co-founder of Sex Matters, has warned might be Stonewall in all but name. And Kate Harris from the LGB Alliance has cautioned, quote, "For the sake of the BBC, its reputation and its audience, it must be open about the exact nature of the relationship and how it will safeguard its editorial independence." On another issue, don't alarm bells sound when we see a logo, a corporate logo for Albert, pasted at the end of current affairs programmes such as Newsnight. I was intrigued and looked it up, and I find out that the BBC has signed up to an initiative in which media organisations pledge to use their content to help audiences tackle climate change and inform sustainable choices. Tim Davie is quoted on Albert's website saying, "At the BBC, we will continue to tell stories that matter and help audiences consider greener choices through their best-loved shows like EastEnders." Is it any wonder that sections of the public will feel patronised here, denied choice, lectured, nudged to embrace one true political outlook? That is not impartiality in my book. To conclude, the Right Reverend Prelate, who I welcome here, who gave an excellent, original and thoughtful contribution to today's debate, I, like he, worry about some of the toxic trends in the public square. I worry, however, that it's identity politics that sows tearing apart the public square and groupthink approach to fashionable political causes that threatens diversity of opinion. So I hope the BBC will stop succumbing to both.